Hi, welcome to ABC's Film. This week we are watching one of my choices. It's a 2016 film called 20th Century Women. I really, really like it, and I'm hoping that Alex does too, but you know.
Yeah, you choose bad films, so, you know, that's the issue.
It was a beautiful car.
Mom, it smelled like gas and it overheated all the time. And it was just old.
What? Well, it wasn't always old. It just got that way all of a sudden.
You know, when the firemen come, people don't usually invite them over for dinner.
Yeah? Why not?
I see the clouds that move across the sky.
Go, shoot.
So 20th Century Women is a movie about a young boy being raised by all the women around him, and his mother is having a bit of trouble raising him, so he asks the women that are around to help, and it's sort of him taking in his life and I don't know, sort of like absorbing like femininity. I don't know. That's about right, isn't it?
Kinda, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
It's a standard coming of age story. It should specify it's set in 1979 Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
so it's also a period piece, and it kind of plays on like the counterculture and the second. I say it's probably second wave feminism. I don't know, like when the waves of feminism.
Yeah, I
happened,
don't know
but
how it works.
Like, there's a lot of feminism stuff in there. There's a lot of like kind of like Talking Heads and Black Flag, and like the music of the era is kind of very important.
Yeah.
So what's the kid's name? I've completely forgotten.
I've completely forgotten
Charles
as well.
Jenkins Wanker Boy. I don't know.
Charles Jenkins Wanker Boy is 11.
He's 15, isn't he? Even though he looks like he's 13.
Yeah.
So his mother is played by Annette Bening, who is really good in this.
But yeah, I think I think everybody's really good in this.
I think Annette Bening is like the best out of all of them.
Yeah.
Quite possibly. But obviously she's the most experienced actress as well.
Yeah.
It's also got Greta Gerwig as the lodger who lives with them.
Yeah.
Who's like kind of a new wavy, punky kind of girl.
She's a New York photographer type.
Yeah, so she went away to New York to study photography and had to come back because she got cancer.
Yeah,
Is that
cervical
correct?
cancer, yeah.
Cervical cancer because her mother took a drug when she was pregnant with her.
Yeah, it's not thalidomide, is it?
No,
but
it's
something similar
like
to that.
DT, DPT, something like that.
Yeah, they
anyway.
mention what it is.
Also, it stars Elle Fanning as a family friend who is also...
I think she's just friend of the kid, but
Friend of the
she's
kid,
sort of
yeah.
like I don't want to say an adopted sister because obviously they have like a romantic interest, but
But Elle Fanning is not close to her mother at all because her mother makes her go to like therapy sessions, doesn't
Yeah.
she? So, and I don't think Elle Fanning has any siblings either.
no.
She's an only daughter, so
Yeah. So
Like,
she's like one of the family, but not.
it's very Forrest Gumpy because she like goes into his room and well, there's that one scene in Forrest Gump where Robin Wright's character Jenny goes to sleep with.
It's the first thought I had
Yeah.
because it's just like a kid sneaking out of her house to go to a guy's house to sneak and just cuddle,
Yeah.
and he wants to sleep with her and she won't.
It's so much easier before you got all horny.
But it's not like you don't...
Do it.
So, surprisingly enough, Barry, I did quite enjoy this film.
Yeah.
Surprisingly
Good.
for a film you showed me,
Yeah.
which is like, I know, because you usually choose crap.
Yeah.
But this is good. I mean, you don't choose crap.
I think what makes this film is there's flashbacks and flash forwards.
Kind
So
of. Yeah.
every now and again, somebody will start narrating and say, you know, my mother grew up in blah, 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 and you'll see little snippets of her past life. Or there'll be bits where a character does voiceover where they say, in 10 years' time, I'll do
such and such,
such and such and such.
which
and
comes at the end mostly for most of the
yeah,
characters,
but
you
there are
learn-
little bits.
You learn in
earlier
the
on.
very middle of the film that Annette Bening's character dies in 1999 of lung cancer, which
Yeah.
is kind of like gives the whole thing like an air of tragedy, obviously.
Yeah, that's when I first watched it. That's when I first started thinking this is going to be really good.
Yeah, when I was watching it, like I was kind of thinking of a novel by Jennifer. I think it's Jennifer Egan, but you know, obviously it's Visit from the Goon Squad, which does a lot of similar kind of things like that. Will tell you what happens to the character in the middle of the book to make it kind of very sad and like, oh,
Yeah.
that person's going to have a tragic life, but then they're happy now or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what it reminded me of, and I think it does that kind of the inevitability of death quite well.
Yeah.
Which is what it makes you think of, I guess.
And when she was 16, the war broke out and she had to leave school. Her dream was to be a pilot in the Air Force. She actually went to flight school, but the war ended before she was done. She became the first woman to work in the Continental Can Company drafting room. Then she met my dad. And then I came. And they got divorced. But people from her time never admit anything went wrong.
Why do you think the film was called 20th Century Women?
Because I think it's about 20th century women.
Yeah, but it's like
That sounded like I was making a joke, but I don't know where you're going with it.
But it's kind of like something that Mark Commode mentioned in his review, which I watched earlier, which I'm referencing. But it's kind of like, it's almost the impression like it's something that's been and gone, like we're not 20th century anymore, we're 21st century. And it's kind of, there's a feeling of like the innocence that's been lost since then, in a way. Like that's a time that we're never going to be able to get back.
Right.
Which I thought was quite interesting. Just because you kind of think sometimes, because I was born in the 20th century, I forget we're not in the 20th century anymore, and you kind of forget how things have changed and how things have moved on.
It's definitely different. There are some conversations where Annette Bening asked Greta Gerwig to speak to the young boy about like feminist stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where Annette Bening thinks she's gone too far because she's told him about like the clitoris and stuff like that, and the female orgasm, and it's like, that's a bit strange nowadays, because it's like, you'd be a weird guy
to not know about
that stuff, and
also,
so those, like, Annette Bening was kind of prudish, really.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, those kind of people are gone.
My impression with Annette Bening was kind of like the character was like, it's fine to talk about that sort of stuff, but not at the dinner table as well, because they were just talking about the female.
Yeah, that scene. Annette Bening was right on that scene. There's a scene where Greta Gerwig starts talking about the fact that she's on a period at a dinner table, and Annette Bening's like, all right, you're on your period, but you don't have to like tell everybody about it. And then she's just like, menstruation.
Not bad. Julian, menstruation. You can say it right now. I'm sorry.
Oh, menstruation.
Just keep eye contact with me. Who are you looking at? Menstruation.
Menstruation.
Yeah, that's right. Menstruation. Charlie, you're quiet. Menstruation?
Menstruation?
No, not like a question. Menstruation.
Menstruation.
Now everybody say it together. Menstruation. Like gentle, happy, but casual. And...
Menstruation.
It's gross, Abby.
She was really good, by the way.
Greta Gerwig.
Mostly because she was so attractive as well. That's kind of helps an awful lot. Because, like,
This is the first film I've seen her in, I think.
I've seen her in Frances Ha beforehand, but I wouldn't say like... I wouldn't say she was that attractive in that.
And I heard about her, and obviously she made loads of waves last year by directing Lady Bird, which is great.
Yeah, so she's like multi-talented as well. I imagine she'll probably win some like big award someday, potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. It'd be nice to see more female directors win Oscars. It really would. I think, and it's nice to see that she could just act in films as well as like an actor, multi-talented, like I said. What do you think of Elle Fanning? Do you think she was good?
Yeah, I think she's always good. I always think about her parents.
Who's that?
Well, I don't know who her parents are, but like Dakota and now Elle, like they're just like popping out loads of great actresses, aren't they?
Shame about like Rooney Mara and Kate Mara, really, isn't it? Because Kate Mara is not very good at all.
Yeah, but Rooney Mara makes up for the two of them.
But it kind of proves that if you're attractive and also you come from like kind of a rich and well-connected family, you can really do anything without, a huge amount of talent.
No, Elle Fanning was good, and it's weird when you think of. I mean, you haven't seen Neon Demon, but
no.
You look at like just how stunning she is in Neon Demon, and then you look at like a movie like this where she's like quite plain and like ordinary, and it's just cool that somebody can change depending on the makeup they've got on. But like I mean like she looks naturally attractive in Neon Demon, and in this she kind of looks naturally ordinary. You know, it's.
I don't know. I want to be a good guy. Okay, I want to be able to satisfy a woman.
Kid, I'm sure you will.
They felt like real characters, and they felt
realistic,
I guess. So
yeah, it's really well written.
I agree completely. It's a good film.
It's written by a
Surprisingly-
man as well, which you would have. If I had to guess,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed it was written by a man.
But he said as well that he was raised by women when he was young.
Yeah,
So
well, it's his
kind
story.
Of, you
isn't
can
it? Yeah.
kind of see that he's probably got like more of the female voice inside of him than
Yeah.
other male directors might have. So I would not feel comfortable at all writing a female character. Because I'd be like, oh, then I had my period, and I'd be like, I don't know what that's like. You know?
I
Do you know
would,
what I
but
mean?
not necessarily like this.
I don't know
Like
that I
20th
could.
century
I don't know
women.
that I could do it accurately or in a way that was kind of.
Like I think I could
respectful.
write a female character until it started, like until one of them had to deal with female issues.
Yeah, I was aware of my breasts.
Yeah,
That kind of
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
like, oh gosh.
Every time I walked past the mirror, I just stared.
My bra was digging into my diaphragm. It hurt.
Do you reckon there are some of those guys that write those like letters to Penthouse, you know,
Yeah.
that are kind of like, I write women really well.
Yeah. It's really hard to do. I really admire like novelists and film writers who are able to write a compelling female character or a character of the opposite sex. Men are easy to write because they're just interested in sex. So that's like it. That's
like
the most
movies.
Huh?
About
sex
sex.
in movies. Yeah, exactly. Very visually orientated. I reckon Jordan Peterson could write a really good novel from a woman's point of view. Do you not think?
This is something my wife has pointed out too. She said, well, men are going to have to stand up for themselves, but here's the problem. I know how to stand up to a man who's unfairly trespassing against me. And the reason I know that is because the parameters for my resistance are quite well defined, which is we talk, we argue, we push, and then it becomes physical. Right? Like if we move beyond the boundaries of civil discourse, we know what the next step is. Okay, that's forbidden in discourse with women.
Obviously, having not been alive in 1979, I don't really know how well it captures the era. Like,
It seemed good. It was like I was saying to you about. There's a movie called A Separation, which is set in Iran,
yeah,
and it shows like a lot of obstacles that a woman in it has to face just because she's a woman, but it's not focused on. And I feel like this is the same with like being set in the 70s. Is like they're in the 70s, but it's not like, oh look, everybody smokes at work. You know, it's they're just
everyone
in the
knows.
70s. It's
Everyone
not...
knows that smoking gives you cancer, and obviously it's interesting the way there's like new technologies there, like pregnancy tests, which kind of comes
Yeah, the
into
pregnancy
it.
test that they have to leave for 2 hours, and
Which is like a strange, like kind of perfume bottle kind of contraption. I have no idea how
Yeah.
that works, but you still have to pee on it.
I imagine that would be, you know, what it looked like. You know,
Yeah.
they researched it and stuff.
It's like there's also one element which is kind of really strange. There's a scene towards the very end of the film where they're all sitting around watching Jimmy Carter give a speech on television.
Yeah.
And the speech is kind of about how materialism might not make you happy, and it's kind of just really strange to look back and kind of be like, that's what people used to do back then. That's the kind of
Yeah.
speeches that presidents give.
Yeah.
And obviously fast forwarding to 2018.
No, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Cheers, Barry.
No, that was my Trump impression.
Is your Trump impression doing an impression of a disabled reporter?
Yeah, there's layers to this.
Yeah, exactly.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
That reporter he is talking about is Serge Kovaleski, who now works for the New York Times. As you can see right there, he suffers from a chronic condition that impairs movement of his arms.
You don't need to like it.
Okay, what is he saying?
Head on my shoulders. Going berserk.
One of my favorite aspects about I don't know if it's the style of the film, but I love the way punk is portrayed in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's not like your usual like fuck the system thing. It's just like people saying
There's a really
we've got no talent.
Yeah.
But we've got passion.
It was a really good succinct description. Was it which character gave it?
Greta Gerwig.
Greta
I think,
Gerwig,
yeah.
She's kind of the punky.
Yeah,
lady.
but also when they go to like the punk club,
Yeah.
usually when you see like punk clubs in films, like there's loads of good lighting and shit like that, and like everybody knows what they're doing. But in this one, it's just like a rectangle room with no lighting, a shitty bar.
That was
and
the
people
best.
are just going like that in the corner, you know, like it's really what it's like going to like a punk club.
It's one of those things where like you can smell the room when you're watching it, like you
Yeah.
know exactly what that room smells like and exactly how hot and kind of dingy it is
Yeah.
in there and how oppressive the heat is. I don't get punk personally, so like I don't have any attraction.
Well, like
to
I
that
said, I think the
music
description in
whatsoever.
this is, I hate like political punk. I hate it when they're like, oh, I hate politicians, because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what politicians in, they don't actually care.
They
They
just
just
don't
want to
like
be able to say that they're against politics, you know. But I like the description of people without talent but with passion making music. I love that, because why shouldn't talented people be able to make music, you know?
Because it's not as good
Untalented
as
people.
it's not as good as talented musicians making music. That's fine.
Did you not hear what she said?
Yes, well, it just wasn't technical. I don't like the whole like if she had skill, it'd make it worse. It's like no, it wouldn't. It's like you can play like
but it would
angrily
make
and
that
forcefully.
style worse, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but that's because you've created that kind of not heuristic.
But there is
you've
also
created the style
something
and-
to only knowing 3 chords, right? And trying to make a new song with 3 chords. There's something to that, and people do pull it off.
like ABBA, like they're kind of like that, aren't they? It's actually true. Like ABBA use like very few chords in their music, but it's not. I suppose it is quite technically competent actually, because
Yeah.
it sounds like kind of it's the production really in the ABBA songs actually. They
Mm.
make them quite good. ABBA's not punk though, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like punk. I'm more of an art fag, which is an expression used in the film, so I'm not being homophobic.
Yeah, they talk about like the divide between people that are into
that kind of
Talking
music
Heads and Black
factionalism
Flag.
is really like the strangest thing. Because if someone said to me, "I'm into punk," I'd be like, "Cool." I wouldn't be like, "Oh, you're a twat."
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, "Oh, I like the Talking Heads." That doesn't make me a twat. Like,
Yeah.
you can like both. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it does
But
exist,
obviously, that's with like I think people who take music really seriously, like, they know which guitarist played on this album, and then such and such left the band, and then this guitarist turned up.
A
and,
lot
you know,
of
band
alternative
names.
people are very elitist.
Yeah, which
Like
is-
I remember back in the day when I used to go out to like the clubs in town that would be like the rock clubs.
Yeah.
And they would close at like 11, but the dance clubs would be open till 2. So I'd be like, right, I'm off to the dance club, and they were like, what?
Yeah.
Well, you go, no, they just listen to shit music. And it's like, well, yeah, but they don't
They
judge
have
other
fun.
people like
Yeah,
you
exactly.
do.
Whatever you think your life is going to be like, just know it's not going to be anything like that.
Right.
I kind of one of the things that I really enjoyed about it as well, we've kind of touched on beforehand, is there's an acknowledgement of the film that like life goes on after the filming's ended.
Mm.
You know, so it's like this is just a slice in these characters' lives.
Yeah.
And you may not necessarily know a huge amount what goes on after, but there's the acknowledgement with the flash forwards and stuff that, you know, they're going to develop, and like the sad part of like, you know, Elle Fanning's character is going to lose contact with the woman
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
always... That
It's
always
like-
kind of gets me in films, because obviously it makes you think about the people that you've lost contact with
Yeah.
over the years. And
Yeah, it's quite nice, and I like it when films do that. Like it's realistic, you know. It's
Yeah.
like, this is just a period in time, and then things are just going to carry on, and people are going to die and have sadness and tragedy. It made me think of the end of 6 Feet Under, like quite a lot actually. Do you know about the end of 6 Feet Under?
I know somebody's
It's
told
really
me, but I don't
famous. It's a
remember.
really
Yeah.
famous ending. It shows all the main characters of the series, like when they're eventually going to die.
Right.
Like in like 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the future, and it kind of just made me think of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's something I enjoyed about it. It is a good film. It's really well constructed. The dialogue's really kind of sharp. All the characters are well drawn. It's really just entertaining to watch all the way
Yeah.
through.
I'm gonna be okay. He said that I probably can't have kids.
Was having Jamie like the biggest thing that ever happened to you? I guess so. Sorry.
So that was our review of 20th Century Women. Hopefully you liked it. If you want to see more in the future, press the like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all tomorrow. It's kind of
Couldn't you have done that like loud at the camera?
Every night I bring her Frankfurter sandwiches, Frankfurter sandwiches. How my baby loves those Frankfurter sandwiches, Frankfurter sandwiches. I try to win her with candy, ice cream and custard. But how she likes hot dogs with mustard.